And now, the Android Basics segment. This is a segment where we discuss the things that power your device from behind the scenes. And now, here's this week's episode, Android Basics. Let's now move on to our Android Basics segment. And of course, we're saluting the Android 15 Beta 2. So here's a preamble, though, of some of the stuff that we like to talk about. And especially, I think the private space is one of those that caught my attention. And here's that little preamble to the private space. And then we'll talk about some of the other stuff. In the hills of Google I/O 2024, on Wednesday, May the 15th, Google released Android 15 Beta 2. As always, this is iterative and not so many things are there for 15 Beta 2. However, there's one that I want to give a preamble of, and that's the private space. To me, that's one of the most important ones, even though they've highlighted some that are not yet there, especially the theft prevention and all of that. For the private space, though, that is available as we speak, and I will demonstrate that or show you where to find it. So first, you navigate to the system settings, and then you navigate to
Security and Privacy, App Security, Device Lock, Permissions, 11 of 19.
And this is where you go to. We tap here.
Security and Privacy, Navigate Up, button, out of list.
And now that we are in security and privacy, what we need to do, though, is to scroll down and find and tap on
Private Space, Keep Private Apps Locked and Hidden, 15 of 18.
Private Space. Let's go ahead and tap.
Settings. Touch the fingerprint sensor. Verify it's you. Face not recognized. Use fingerprint instead. Touch the fingerprint sensor.
So I wasn't looking at it. So if you have face unlock, of course it does have face unlock. You could use your face or use the fingerprint.
Authenticated. Settings. Private Space. Heading.
And now we are in the private space area. Let me, though, go ahead and see what it says about this area so we get ourselves familiarized with what this area is all about.
Private Space. Heading.
At the top, it says Private Space Heading. And of course, if you can see a little bit, there's a little animation going on. I'll just put my finger down, move down, and see what it says about this part of the screen.
Set up your private space.
And I'll just move my finger down.
Choose a Google account for your space. Using a dedicated account helps to stop synced files, photos, and emails appearing outside your space.
So in other words, if you create this private space, nothing is going to show out of here. So everything that you have, including apps, are not going to show elsewhere on your phone, and that includes the apps and everything else. So you create that knowing that this is going to be exclusively found in the private space. Of course, if you have a Samsung device, there's a similar thing on there on the Samsung device. Google is just a little bit late to the party. Let's move on down.
Set a lock. Lock your space to stop other people opening it.
Moving down.
Install apps. Your private space has its own Play Store so you can install apps easily.
I love the sound of it. Moving down.
Apps in your private space won't appear in Permission Manager, Privacy Dashboard, and other settings when your private space is locked. Your private space can't be moved to a new device. You'll need to set up another private space if you want to use it on another device. Anyone that connects your device to a computer or installs harmful apps on your device may be able to access your private space.
So in other words, just like I said earlier, everything that you install here or activities that you have here is not going to show outside of here, including your apps, and that will also not be shown as impacting your battery, for example, because it's not going to show that report outside of here. However, as it says, if someone hooks up the phone to the computer, they may be able to see your private space. Let's move on down.
Learn more about private space.
And next,
Cancel button.
We have the cancel at the bottom left, or to the right of it is
Setup button.
Setup. Now, of course, I'm not going to be setting up a private space as of yet, but I'll just tap here to see what it says. Let's go ahead and tap.
Setting up private space. Heading. Create a Google account to help keep your data private.
We are now on a page that tells us to create a Google account to keep your stuff private. And moving down.
On the next screen, you can sign into an account to use with your private space.
Moving down.
Create a dedicated account to help stop data appearing outside private space, such as
Moving down.
synced photos, files, emails, contacts, calendar events, and other data.
Moving down.
App download history and recommendations.
And
Browsing history, bookmarks, and saved passwords.
moving down.
Suggested content related to your activity in private space apps.
Moving down.
Skip button.
We've got the skip at the bottom left, and to the right of it
Got it button.
is the got it. So in other words, anything that you create here, like I said earlier, will be exclusively here. I'll tap on got it.
Account setup. Checking info. Heading. Google Play Services. Checking info. Heading. Sign in with your Google account. Learn more about using your account. Web view. warcare@gmail.
And there in the middle is showing your email address. And of course, the whole idea, though, is not to use your existing email account, but you could use another email account if you have another one that you want to convert maybe to a private one. And so at the bottom, we've got
Create account. Menu pop-up button. Collapsed.
there's a create account at the bottom left there, and to the right of it,
Next button.
there's the next button. So if I tap on next, of course, it's going to be using my existing email account to create that account. Now, I don't want to do that. So I could tap on create account submenu and create something new. But let's say I just click on next.
Web view. Hi Warren. Showing password.
So there is asking for my password, of course, and things like that. I'm going to go back because I don't want to use this.
Sign into a Google account to use with your private space.
And now that I've gone back, now we're hearing that. And of course, at the bottom of it, let's assume that you've verified yourself and created a new account. Then at the bottom right, you'll get
Continue.
Continue button. Tap.
Google Play Services. Sign in. Next button.
And of course, we're back to that sign in next button. And since I'm not creating an account, I'll just exit out of it. I'll now just exit out of here by going back home.
Home. At a glance. View.
And now I'm going to close out in the recents.
Recent apps. Settings. 9 of
And
9.
I close settings.
Task closed.
And
Messages.
now I'm going to go
Home.
back to settings
Notifi-
again.
Quick settings. Open settings. Display brightness.
And now I'm going to go down to that security and privacy and then go to private space.
Security and privacy.
And now I'm going to go down to private space because even though I didn't create the account, but because I started, it kind of has that private space there that I'll show you how to go about deleting it. Now scroll down and tap on private space.
Private space. Keep private apps
Let's
locked.
tap.
Private space. Navigate up. But showing items 1 to 10 of
Now we're on this page, and here are some of the items that we find. Starting from the top,
keep private apps in a separate space that you can hide or lock. 2 of 10.
and
In
moving
list.
down,
Lock. Heading.
locks,
3 of
heading,
private space lock. Lock. Heading. 3
lock,
of 10.
heading,
Private space lock. Same as device screen lock.
move down,
4. Lock private space automatically.
Move
Only
down.
hide. Heading. 6
there's
of
a
10.
hide heading,
Hide private space when it's locked. Off. 7 of 10.
And moving down,
System. Heading. 8 of
we
10.
come across System.
Delete private space. 9 of 10.
We got Delete Private Space in the last item.
Apps in your private space won't appear in Permission Manager, Privacy Dashboard, and other settings when your private space is locked. Your private space can't be moved to a new device. You'll need to set up another private space if you want to use it on another device. Anyone that connects your device to a computer or installs harmful apps on your device may be able to access your private space. 10 of 10.
So in other words, the private space is not a cross-device thing. You can create it on your Pixel 8 Pro, for example, and expect it to be on your Pixel 7 or some other Pixel devices. So I'll move back to Delete.
Delete private space. 9 of
And
10.
we tap.
Delete private space. Your private space will be removed from your device. All private apps and data will be deleted. You can't undo this action. Out of list.
And at the bottom left, we got,
Cancel. Button.
and at the bottom right,
Delete. Button.
Delete button. I'll tap on Delete.
Pin. Re-enter your pin. Pin. Edit box.
And now we're being asked for a PIN. Of course, you're going to be using the PIN that you use in authenticating your phone. And now I'll pause this recording and enter my PIN and come back.
Bullet.
I just finished entering my PIN and we'll tap on Next at the bottom.
Next. Keyboard hidden. Delete private space. Deleting private space. Heading. Private space deleted. Security and privacy.
And it deleted my private space, and now I'm back to security and privacy. I'll now hand this over to the podcast crew as we discuss these new features of Android 15 Beta 2. John, you have any thoughts about this? Both you and I have this Android 15 Beta 2 as well as Austin. Now, of course, we do want to mention here that if you're jumping into the beta, this is not like the developer preview that you have to sideload or you have to go to the website to install it. Just simply enroll from the website, and it will just become available for you to download on your phone. So there's nothing to do. The only thing to do is to go to the website, and then you tap on available devices, and then below each of those devices that you have that qualify will be an opt-in. You click on that opt-in, and it will just offer it to you OTA over the air, and you're good to go. John or Austin, what do you guys have to say about Android 15 Beta 2?
Android 15 Beta 2 is very stable. For me, on the Pixel 7a, I got it over the April security patch, and it was about 771 MB. So that installed also very fast. So it is stable with lots of more new features are coming up now that they are finally in the beta program.
John, what was your experience?
So I installed it a couple days ago. I really didn't start playing with it until this morning, but I set up private spaces and I've been playing with that a little bit just to see what it's like.
What I also found in the private space is if you set up a private space and let's say connect WhatsApp to your phone in the private space, you connect your computer to your phone via USB and you cannot see your files unless you don't unlock the private space and give it permission to connect via USB. So that is really a fantastic feature which is hides all your files from the public that I really like. So this can be useful for banking, other financial apps which you don't want people to see, or some notifications apps, and can be really useful.
That's really nice because that was one of the things that I have some concern about. And of course, it would be with the implementation that we have, someone has to authenticate with your fingerprint or with your face first when you hook up the device, as we talked about earlier on when Google implemented this in the Android 15 Beta 1. So even if someone grabs your phone and wants to plug it onto their computer and see, that hidden stuff that you got, first they have to go through a bunch of defenses to get through that. So I like the implementation. So I think, shall we say, we're really secure with the private space. I think we are secure with this private space.
At least the apps that are set in the private space are secure, because the ones that are in the public space or in the normal mode can still be visible without any fingerprint or anything.
If I hook up my device to my computer, I have to authenticate with my fingerprint before it hooks up. So that's the first line of defense.
Yeah,
Without that, you can't see your internal storage.
you can access your app data and all those things.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though, so if I plug in my phone right now to my computer, that dialog pops up asking me to authenticate. If I don't authenticate, then there's no connectivity.
That pops up because you have set up a private space already. So
No,
if
no,
you have
no,
not,
no, no, no,
then
no, 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 Austin, no, no, no. Prior to the private space in beta 1, Android 15 beta 1, Google implemented a feature where if you hook up your phone via the USB port to the computer, you have to authenticate the connectivity. For example, so you tap on charging this device, and if you want that file transfer, you tap on that file transfer, you have to authenticate. That's what I'm talking about. So
okay,
this one is already in place as a first line of defense.
it did not do it for me because I must be having developer mode enabled and all those things.
That's odd. Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
mine behaves. So if I hook up my device and I tap on Android system charging this device, and then I have those options, choosing what I want to do, and I choose file transfer, it asks for authentication. Without it, nothing can be seen.
Something I wanted to mention about private spaces is that you can set it up without using a Google account. So in your preamble, when you got to the page where it was first telling you to sign in with your account, there was two buttons at the bottom. One was skip and one was got it. And in the preamble, you hit got it. But if you hit skip, it will still enable it without being signed into a Google account. And then you'll have access to like a private message or not messages, a private files, like a file manager, photos app, the camera, private camera. There's like 8 apps that you have access to. But of course, if you want to add more apps from the Play Store, you can't download anything from Play Store without being signed into an account. So you would have to sign in from there. But just to test it out, I signed in with my same Google account. That was the main account on my phone, and I downloaded apps to my private space from there. And it did end up keeping them all separate. So I had signed into my private Telegram with with my burner number instead of my regular number, and it kept it all separate. They have like separate app data and everything from the regular apps. So just thought I'd point that out. It's a pretty nice experience, but something else I wanted to mention is it seems like, at least as far as I could tell, you have to be using the Pixel launcher to get to this stuff, because the way you would turn on private space is you'd go to your app drawer and you'd go all the way down to the bottom until you see the switch for private space, and you'd turn that on, and then all of your private apps appear under the regular apps in the app drawer. So unless there's another way that I don't know of to access this stuff, I think you won't be able to use this feature if you have a third-party launcher.
I'm glad you tried skipping it, because I didn't. And so it's nice to know that you can still do something if you skip it. And regarding your third-party launchers, I think sometimes these early things are not supported in third-party launchers, and we'll see how that pans out over the period as it matures and all of that. I really like it, and Another thing, though, that hasn't come is the one that Google talked about, the second day of Google I/O, that theft protection. I think that's a huge one. Android keeps getting better and better. So I, for one, am surely looking forward to that theft protection. It's not like someone has ever tried to grab my phone from my hand while I'm walking and all of that. I'm not one of those that would be holding my phone in my hand. When I'm out there, my phone is in my pocket. But of course, I can see people who have their phones on lanyard and or whatever, or trying to use the camera while you're walking. There's something I'll never do. But someone tries to steal your phone, then of course, that will jolt that theft protection and try to disable stuff so someone doesn't get into your phone. Because, as it is, for example, if someone grabs my phone and it's unlocked if I was using it, and then they could turn on something like the camera to keep the phone awake, and then they can just go into your phone and look at your stuff. You get nice pictures or whatever. Those are some of the things some people want to hide and all of that. It's not that the physical device is what matters. I think is the data that is of great importance here when it comes to the phone. So I'm glad to see this feature coming. And although it's not here yet, but I'm almost positive maybe in beta 3 or with the final release, we'll have that theft protection.
So what theft protection does is, even if your phone is in your pocket, or if your phone is in your hand and it's even unlocked and you're using it, if somebody grabs your phone, they won't grab your phone and go slowly. They'll either run away, pick it up and run away. So that alerts the gyroscope sensor, which then locks your phone, and you can call it using another number and tell it your PIN, and it will unlock. Or if you have done it somehow, you have alerted the gyroscope sensor yourself, which can happen if you are doing some heavy sporting activities, then you can unlock it. Otherwise, you can do the find my phone and other things even when the phone is locked in in the theft protection. So that is something good that they are doing. It's very secure, especially in Mumbai. This happens a lot. Like Android phones are robbed in pockets also, and you don't even know. So it's a good thing they are doing this feature and they're adding the feature.
This is why I've refused to come visit you, Austin, because I don't want my phone to get stolen. Just kidding. But Mumbai does sound scary, or maybe say you're in New York, some other big cities like that. Things of this nature are very common around the world. So I'm glad we have this as a protection. John, you want to talk about the Bluetooth thing? That's another thing that we have with Android 15 that is available right now. You want to talk a little bit about that, what it does?
Sure. So if you go into settings and then go to connected devices and then go to connection settings, there's a new, under the Bluetooth heading, there's a new switch that I guess, is this turned on by default or turned off by default? Do you know?
By default, it's on, and that's the connect later.
Okay. Yeah, so I went in there and I turned it off. It will turn Bluetooth back on. So if you turn off Bluetooth manually, it's going to turn it back on automatically the next day. So if you don't want that behavior, then this is where you would need to go in the settings and turn that switch off. So it's, I guess it's a feature that people wanted. I didn't want it, but somebody asked for it at some point, and it's here now.
Well, I guess the thing is that, for example, if I turn it on or turn it off and then I forget it, then, I'm trying to connect something and it's not pairing or whatever the case may be. So since it turns on automatically for me the following day, then I don't have to bother about it. But of course, if you don't want your Bluetooth on, then you just need to turn it off. So it's one of those things that is a win-win situation for everyone. And I'm glad we have something like that. I think I'm digging it.
Yeah, I think most people, I would assume most people are either like always on people or always off people. Like if a lot of people just keep Bluetooth off all the time and until they need it, and then they turn it on. And then people like me just leave it on all the time because I always want to be able to connect to things. So I guess now there's some kind of middle ground for the people that want something like that.
Exactly. So I happen to be like you, my Bluetooth is on all the time. Now, when Google released Android 15 Beta 2, it also included some phones that can now jump onto the beta. Sally and Karen, you guys want to talk about some of those phones or manufacturers that have that Android 15 beta? It'll be like beta 1 for them and things like that.
Well, those manufacturers are basically from China, so Chinese people are super happy about it. Samsung is not included right now, but I'm sure they will be joining into the party later on.
You're talking of your Samsung because yeah, I look at that selfish boy. He's looking out for
Yeah,
himself.
yeah. But
Oh boy.
honestly, this is something great because brands like Techno, Honor, and Xiaomi, Vivo, those brands are really making it good joining this to the beta program. But the only thing is they won't be joining with a lot of devices. Only the flagship devices that they are released on this year, they will be eligible for the Android 15 beta. But on the other hand, our Samsung is gonna join with several devices, though. Yeah,
Oh boy. Yeah, I agree
yeah.
though. Well, Samsung has lots of devices, and once they open up the
But
floodgate, yeah,
after all, this is something great. I mean, maybe next year when Android 16 beta is coming out, there will be much more devices covered. This is a great preparation, I think, for this year. But I'm really optimistic.
you're correct because these
Yeah.
are brands that we've never heard of before. I mean, for example, the Techno, for example, is one of those. And then, of course, you have the Nothing phone. We have nothing. Nothing is part of that experience as well. But like you said, though, when Samsung jumps on, is that there's going to be lots of devices. A lot of the A series devices are also going to be part of this experience. So I think we have a good thing coming up ahead of us. And if you have a Samsung phone, look forward to that. And I'm thinking maybe in August or thereabout, Samsung might jump on, or maybe September, who knows? But they've kind of been opening up earlier and earlier every year. So it wouldn't surprise me if after the Samsung Unpack or during the Samsung Unpack in July, Samsung tells us they're jumping onto the beta with the S24 series or something like that.
You know what? There is one good thing about TikTok. Since more brands are joining to the party, I think in the future we will see more different devices in the community saying, "Okay, I'm using a Huawei device. Can you help me with it? What are you gonna do?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's the next thing here? I think there's something called the adaptive vibration. Austin, you want to talk about that, or John, you want to talk about that?
So there are different vibration patterns in Android 15 beta 2. One is customized vibrations. This, what it will do is you can set a different vibration pattern for different apps. So you can know exactly from which app you are getting notifications. Like Telegram can have one vibration pattern, WhatsApp can have another. So you can set it that way. Another thing you can do is there is adaptive vibration where the phone will judge which environment you are in. Like if you are in a musical studio, pub, or something, and if you are in a loud environment, it will adjust your vibrations up to that, so that you feel that somebody is calling you or somebody is notifying you. And the last thing is vibration area or environment. So this, what it does is if your phone is kept on a flat surface, it will vibrate a little slower or not that aggressive, so that your phone does not slip over the flat surface and fall. But if your phone is kept on a couch, let's say, and it's like pretty deep or pretty soft couch, then it will vibrate extremely, so that you know that yeah, your phone is here and you can easily find your phone through the vibration and answer the call and notifications. And according to that, the vibration patterns can be either set or are auto set depending on your environment.
I like it because that adaptive vibration is a good thing. Some people, permanently leave their phones on, vibrate. They don't want the ringer on and things like that. So I'm looking at my daughter. You can get them, on the phone most of the time. You have to text or whatever, but the phone is in vibrate mode. So I like the adaptive vibration. So if you are at a sporting game or whatever, and it's loud there, like you said, Austin, you can feel that vibration because it's going to be louder based on the environment that you are in because it utilizes the microphone to detect as to where you're at. So I like that feature. The next thing that we have, though, is the back gesture, which used to be hidden in the developer options. And what that is that if you're going back to a previous screen or back to some other app, it will tell you or show you what app you're going back to. Now, this is something that has to be enabled by developers. So if the developer doesn't enable it, it's not going to be there. So but at least some of the Google apps and the settings area, for example, you can see that in action right now. You don't need to go into the developer option to enable that feature. John and I were trying it earlier on to see if those of us using the screen reader, if there's something like says, hey, you're going back to Lookout or you're going back to XYZ. I didn't hear that. So maybe Google could tweak it a little bit to include us.
One more slight improvement that they've done, and this is mostly a um, visual design change, but it also affects us because it makes the sliders larger in the volume panel, and that's the expanded volume panel. So when you bring up your volume controls and then you hit, I don't know if it's still called expand or if it's called volume settings. It might be called volume settings. You double tap on that and it'll bring up all the sliders for all the volumes, and they're arranged horizontally. It's the same as it was, but they're a lot larger and easier to find. So if you like to explore your screen, I think this will make it a lot easier. And then there's also on the screen, there's a button to turn on live captions or adjust where your sound output is coming from. So if you want to change that, you can also do it there.
Talking about visuals, that's another thing, though, that has to do with colors. They are kind of better also. So those that have some sight could take advantage of things like that. And I think those are some of the things, though, that we see with Android 15 Beta 2. Most of these things are iterative, but these are some of the new things that are available, except the theft protection, which hasn't quite debuted yet.
Also, if you use live captions, then the volume panel will be expanded in beta 3 and will show you some more options for live captioning. So that also will be coming up next month.